we'll go ahead and kick this off. Welcome to Tribe Talk, Sunday, November 29th, 2020. A few things about Tribe Talk. Our purpose here is just to get together as a group of like-minded people. We know we have a lot in common, and there's certainly more in common than we have differences. So we've developed this dialogue of rider coaches, preferably to enhance the communications between us and share our ideas and thoughts, and hopefully better the tribe, better rider coaching, and share information and become better ourselves. I do have to throw in the caveat here that this is independent. It is not sponsored by anybody, regardless of who shows up and participates. The one single motive is the improvement of the tribe and to hopefully eventually create responsible thinking motorcyclists with good judgment. A little Tribe Talk etiquette. If you haven't seen this before, it's pretty simple. It's the typical Zoom etiquette. If you're not speaking, it's good to mute your microphone so that in case something happens where you're at, it doesn't interrupt the flow of the conversation. You can use your raise your hand icon at the bottom of your screen or the chat screen to let people know you want to jump into a talk. Be respectful, but typically we don't do a lot of hand raising. We just let people jump in where necessary unless it gets too busy. Use the chat box if you want to talk with somebody or ask a question of the group. And I ask everybody's help as moderators to just kind of get those out there if I miss them. And if you would please add your name and location to your screen so everybody knows where you're from. It gives us a little context into what you're talking about. Lurkers are welcome. You don't have to speak at all or chat at all, although we do ask that if you feel comfortable doing so, that you jump right on in there, because the more minds, the more dialogue, the better. And then if you have technical difficulties, please just jump back in and we'll try to get everybody else back in as well, and we'll continue going. So Tribe Talk topics tonight. Can somebody read that slide for me? I'd appreciate it. Bueller.
First, second coach experiences. The 3-minute thesis. Tribe Talk weekly poll, 29 November 2020.
I hope that's
I had a bit of feedback there, Don.
Okay.
Mal Batting. Manny, Moda.
So what we're going to kick off tonight is the first and second year coaching experiences. Feedback. Okay. So I'll jump in and out as much as I can. Can somebody read the top of this slide for me, please?
As you first speak, please introduce yourself with the name and location of where you coach. Please open and honest about challenges and successes.
So I can tell this is going to be fun tonight. For those of you who are first and second year coaches, the whole intent was for us to get your perspective of how things are going. So if you're a first or second year coach, please go ahead and introduce yourself and jump in with how your first year of coaching was.
Hey, Don, this is Chris Horton out in Colorado Springs. I will tell you my first year of coaching was an absolute blast. I got to teach almost 800 students over the course of that year while serving active duty in the Army.
Thanks, Chris. Anybody else want to jump in?
So this is Belinda from Alabama, and down in Tuscaloosa, and I'm a second year coach. I think I just finished up my second year, and my first year was extremely scary, fun, disappointing at times, all that fun stuff. But mostly it was fun and exciting. I did a lot of solo coaching, so that was tough, but I did get it was about half and half. But yeah, my first year was all of the emotions, all of the feelings, all of everything. But I met some amazing people, and second year got better, and I plan on next year being even better than that. Yeah.
Don, if I may, those coaches that were just talking, one with Chris from Colorado Springs and the young lady, I didn't catch what they said about, were they teaching, if they said it all, were they teaching a full size range, a compact range, or a modified range?
Hey, Dennis, this is Chris. I did a combination of both. I've done compacts, I've done full size, I've done, you know, obviously solos on the compact range, but I've done solos on a large range as well.
So I did a combination of both. Most of my solos, of course, also have been on the compact ranges, but having the honor of working on full size ranges with the other coaches was a great experience also. So yeah, so a combination of both, and level 1 and level 2 work. So a combination of both, being able to get the experience of doing e-courses, 5x5x10s, all that fun stuff. So a good combination of the first 2 years. I've gotten a good combination.
For the people that are new or haven't spoke up yet, feel free to jump in without being asked.
Hey, I'm Lena. Can you hear me? I'm from Connecticut. This is my second year. Most of my classes were on a compact range. First year I only did 6 classes, and I did 20 this year. So very different years for me. We had a lot of demand in Connecticut. We only had one program open for most of the year. So, but yeah, intimidating. I can definitely mirror what Belinda said. So it's good to be part of the tribe, though.
Tony here, also from Connecticut. Lena was in my candidate class, I guess, or RiderCoach class. Second year also, somewhat limited experience due to COVID, but I've really enjoyed the coaching part, sharing that knowledge and seeing the people grow and master the skills. There's been a few heartaches and a few heartbreaks and, you know, minor disasters, but so it's been a full experience for me also. And both a modified and a full range. Hey, Don. This is Ron from Rochester. I had a chance to speak with one of my second year coaches earlier this evening who could not be on tonight. And one of the things he wanted to suggest was that the first year was kind of interesting. He said you can read the cards and read the cards and read the cards and read the cards, but until you actually get out there and do it, it can be a little intimidating, as everyone else has said. Enjoyable, but different. He works on a standard range.
So if anybody else doesn't want to jump in, and feel free to jump in at any time, that moves us to the second question. We talked different ranges, different types of ranges, both compact, modified, or regular BRC ranges. How many different ranges have you all worked on?
This is Chris out of Colorado Springs. I've been on 7 different ranges so far.
I think I've done, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think about 9 in the state of Alabama. 9, maybe. Yeah, all from, because we have state ranges across, and then the HD ranges. So I think maybe about 8 or 9 myself, different ranges.
I worked on 3, and I definitely have my favorite.
2
So
ranges for me.
How many, Tony? I'm sorry, I stepped on you.
2.
And was your favorite a compact, modified, or regular range, Lena?
It's a modified, but we pretty much have to follow the compact, cards. But yeah, it's definitely my favorite. The lines are crisp and the bikes are in great condition. I feel spoiled there.
It's good to feel spoiled. And then that leads to the next question with how many different other coaches have you taught with?
At least 15 for me. And I don't know if the next question comes in there, but probably soon to follow, varying different skill levels amongst those 15 different coaches.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's been possibly around 10 or so, I guess. The first year was because I did more level, I had more full size range. I got the opportunity to work with a lot more coaches. This year has been mostly coaches that have been very kind to jump in during the hot summer, and we co-coach, like kind of just give our weekends to each other just to kind of help each other out. But yeah, probably about 10, 15 also different coaches, I guess, throughout the state.
Yeah, my number is probably about the same, 10. Mostly work with 1 or 2 of the same this year, but it's nice having a variety because as a new coach, you can learn little tricks and stuff from other folks and learn what good things and not so good things, habits from other people.
I probably worked with about 7 coaches, I guess, in the last 2 years. And I should say I've worked on 3 ranges because one of our training sites actually has 2 ranges, and we run 2 classes on the weekends. One range is a newer, and the equipment's newer, and the other one's a little beat up, and the topography is a little different. One is out in the sun, one's in the shade, one's noisier, one's in the sun. So it makes a difference that way too.
Are there any other first or second year coaches out there that I'm missing that wants to jump into the conversation? Feel free to jump in.
I'm Lori. I did my ride with Tony and Lena. Did my RiderCoach training. I taught up in Maine last year, and then I moved out to Arizona. And I've talked to 2 schools out here. One girl wanted me to sign a 5-year non-compete contract, but couldn't guarantee work. The other school, I went and auditioned where I actually worked all weekend and got no compensation for it. And they were so far from the book that it was kind of scary. So I haven't taught this year at all except that one time.
Thank you, Valerie. I'm sorry to hear that you're having problems out there, but I'm sure everything will work out eventually. which brings me to the last question on this particular slide, and I'll just let you all read and answer it as you deem fit.
That one's a tough one, Don. When I look at a biggest challenge, just kind of slicing that up a little bit. Early on, I think my biggest challenge was just being comfortable in how I coach, and finding a level of comfort within coaching, whether it was with another coach or even on my own after those co-coaching opportunities when they allowed me to go solo. But the biggest challenge was just consistency and reminding myself that it is as simple as reading the cards, and that helps keep you, focused to the task at hand, and then learning to shut up and stop the storytelling to maintain the time on the range. And then my biggest success was, oh shoot, I'll think about it. If I get one, I'll come back. I just.
That reminds me of a story about a ride I did once. 30 years experience, about 800 million miles under my belt. Sorry, go on.
Thanks, Robin.
So Robin just gave me an example of one of my biggest challenges was working with other coaches. And having to, the personalities, I'll say that, different personalities that are completely different than mine, was a big challenge, but also a success, because out of all of the coaches that I co-coached with, I only really had a big issue with one that wasn't like settled, I guess. But yeah, and so that was a big challenge for me. Counseling people out was another challenge you have to get. It's very hard to get used to. I'm a crier myself, so the tears don't bother me, and so, but they bothered other coaches that were with me, so that was kind of a challenge. But yeah, it was the learning to gently have and making sure they have that conversation before I have to have that conversation. So that was a challenge. Successes, there were many of them throughout the last 2 years. Seeing people make that U-turn smile, that was always a favorite of mine, when they finally make that perfect figure 8 and they give you that smile. And then I'll share, today was actually a huge success for me. I had a class this weekend. My daughter passed the class this weekend. So she took the class with me. I was super excited that she took it not this past June, but June before that, and did not do very well because of the heat. She took it not with me then, so I blame that on my fellow friend and coach, not tease him. Anyway, so yeah, she passed today. Super excited about that. And so I have a new riding buddy.
Yeah, I can definitely mirror that counseling out situation. I ended up with a bad Google review from somebody that I should have counseled out a lot earlier. For me, just the confidence and, trusting the training and getting in there and just owning it. But once I kind of got over those first few class jitters, I don't know how I've been missing out on doing this for so long. I'm so glad I got into it. And just, one of the ranges I work at, there are only 4 coaches there, and it's at a dealership. So kind of figuring out the dynamics of that place and finding my particular fit into the group, I would say is a success for me.
Hi, gang. Laura here from Minnesota. So I think that the discomfort or the struggles with counseling people out is a fairly common statement from new coaches in particular, from coaches in general. And I just am curious to know if that was modeled or if you talked about that all in your prep, and or what would have made that process easier for you out of the gate or as a new coach?
Well, so I'll go with that. It was modeled pretty okay, I guess, during RCP. There wasn't a lot of time spent on it that I can remember. It was mostly watching other coaches and picking the right ways and the wrong ways of doing it, from my opinion way. You know, seeing other people. So good models and not so good models, we'll say it that way. I never say good and bad really, but and it's just, like I said, I think getting more comfortable with having the conversation at the beginning and say, hey, look, this is just something that happens. I also feel like that me not successfully completing my first time helped that a lot. So I have that under my belt to, as a go-to, being able to say, hey, look, I had to go a second attempt, but there was a reason. And I always kind of throw that in, like if I wouldn't have took it a second time, I wouldn't have met my rider coaches then, who end up being a mentor, who end up suckered me into doing this crazy coach thing, you know, and that whole thing. And so encouraging them that a second go around really is not a big deal at times. And then, so I think that helped me get to that point. But yeah, so modeling what I feel are nice ways or not so good ways and good, not so, and great ways of doing it, but then also having that experience under my belt of being counseled out myself at the beginning and having to redo it made me, I feel like, a better coach.
That's the only thing I was going to add, you know, as talking about counseling out. I think that was awesome, Belinda, that you're saying on the front end. And that's the biggest thing, is trying to set up on the front end. Or what I try to do is basically say, hey, look, you know, everybody learns at a different rate. And sometime today might not be kind of the right day for somebody, but it's not the end of the journey. We have so many other options. So it's kind of setting it up on the front end that when and if the talk has to happen, it just makes it a lot smoother transition to go through that.
To intervene here real quick and just introduce Jeff, whose idea has come to fruition tonight with this little discussion. So if you don't mind, Jeff, please introduce yourself and kind of give your take on what's on this slide.
Yeah, hi. Can you guys hear me okay? Am I coming through? Great. All right. Well, hi. Let me get my video on too. Sorry about that. We'll start video. And there I am. Hi. So let me jump right in this. I apologize. I was late. I had a family commitment during this, so this was a little tougher, but I'm glad I could join over here. So yeah, we had talked about first year coaching. So it was definitely a lot of lessons learned. Let me run through the slide. How was my first year coaching? It was amazing. It was one of the best experiences that I've had. You know, as everybody says, it's more than just a job. It is a passion for me. I really enjoy just meeting the new people. You know, it started out as a side gig, a side hustle, make some extra money, get to play with motorcycles. But man, I find myself even today, it was just, you know, if there was a chance to jump on the range and help out, I'm always down there. So first year coaching for me was a lot of fun. It was, you know, it was a journey beginning. So let me see, how many different ranges have I coached on? So I've coached on 3 different ranges in the Massachusetts area, some full-size ranges and a couple of compact ranges. So there's definitely a learning lesson as you are sort of going through the exercises and you know, where to place the students. So yeah, different ranges. How many coaches have you taught with? I've probably taught with maybe 4 or 5 throughout the summer, different coaches. I sort of got in the groove where I was coaching with the same 2 or 3. I mean, I was coaching almost every weekend. So I would say probably 4 or 5 total throughout the summer. And each C1 has their personality, right? So I think I would say one of the biggest challenges, especially one of the biggest, a couple of lessons learned are, it is the personalities of the different C1s, right? So you think as a started out as a C2, you're excited about getting the cones out, and then the C1 will say, you know what, I like to put the green ones here, and I like to put something a little different on this one. So, okay. And then your next C1 says, oh no, we put the orange ones over here and the green ones there. And on exercise 3, I like to have the lane set up this way. So, okay, let me go back and fix that. So I think that one of the biggest learning for me was, okay, being able to adapt to some of the different C1s, and, how, basically just learning the personalities of the different C1s. I'll kind of pause here because I was talking a lot. Any questions or any things I should expand on? I can't hear you.
Silence means you're doing awesome, Jeff.
Yeah, it works out. So is there anybody else that would like to jump in on their challenges or successes?
Because I'll keep going. I've got all sorts of stories. All right, I'm going till someone, I'll throw more out there. So I think, a little bit of lessons learned. So let me kind of step back a little bit. I remember when the first weekend I coached, it was, you get out there and it's like a total mess, right? Because you're a C2 and you're trying to figure out, where the cones go. And, I don't know how everyone's else ranges are, but all ranges aren't necessarily all clearly marked, right? So, is that a 10? Is that a 9? Is that a 6? As you're trying to find out where to put cone placements around. So you're running around like crazy, and this is my first day, and you're thinking, there's got to be an easy way to do this, right? And in the meantime, I see one comes by, and he's, flipping cones around, and they're just landing on the dot, and you're like, okay, I guess I'll figure this out a little more. So that was one of my earlier frustrations, was just figuring out where cone placement, right? I mean, I think anyone first starting out, that's probably a big thing. If any first year coaches out there, let me know if you had the same experience. So then again, it was, man, it just takes a while to get into, being a effective coach. And every class you take that big, you're progressing a little bit more. You're taking in some lessons. I worked with Josh a lot over the summer, and he was also my trainer, so I had some great experiences. But it is a little bit like being a BRC student, right? One of the things that worked for me is, or here's an experience. I had one coach. It was like my second weekend over the summer, and he was really wanted to help me out, right? He was passionate, and I think he was maybe a 3rd or 4th year coach, and he wanted to give me all his wisdom. But at the end of every exercise, I think we spent 5 minutes debriefing on how I was doing, right? So I think as a senior coach mentoring a newer coach, it should be the same. Like, just give me like one thing to learn at the end of that exercise, one thing I could have done better, as opposed to 5 things, just be that 5-second buddy for me at the end of an exercise. So let me throw it up to some of the more senior coaches. What do you do to part wisdom on your newer coaches? And Josh, because I recognize you, and you've done it very well. Like even today, it was just like, what is, okay, don't give me 10 things that I could have done better on exercise 5 or 8 or whatever. Just give me that one thing.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's just like working, with a new student, and we help each other, because I want you to keep me on my toes as much as I'm helping keep you on your toes. And we're always bringing ourselves back to the rider coach guide or the cards or, okay, you know, this was this interpretation, but what's the real answer?
Right.
No, I think you really had a real successful year. And you were talking about, you know, obviously doing C2 a lot in the beginning because you just kind of, the C1's kind of keeping the pace of the class, or at least in Massachusetts. And we have to do both, obviously. You did a bunch of both.
Yeah.
But yeah, we usually, people out of the gate, generally, we have doing the demos, setting up the cones, and obviously coaching as well. But it just kind of fits better that way because the person reading the cards can kind of keep the pace. You know, you can run your debrief a little bit longer. You can help set up some cones. You can give a question and go out and help the other coach. And that's the thing, I guess, is everybody should co-coach, in my opinion. You know, and what I mean by co-coach is don't leave one person out there dying with, you know, dropping cones and falling. It's kind of like, okay, hey, students, here's something to work on. I'm going to be listening. I'll come back and capstone it, but talk as a group about, you know, this question. And you kind of can help each other or pace each other. Don't just start reading the next exercise and go, oh, wow, well, it's not set up yet. You know, you got to watch what both coaches are doing.
Yep. And that was, and Josh really helped me with that. And I actually, I saw that, I think when I was I think I was a C1. It is like before we start reading the cards, it was like, let's make sure that the range is set up. Let's make sure that the C2 is in sync with you and ready to go for demo time. Don't just start reading what cards was and that was another piece of wisdom. Let's get the range set up before we jump into the next exercises. So I appreciate with Josh. But you know, again, I think the biggest thing is as a newer coach was, you know, for the senior coaches, again, as you're imparting that wisdom, just give that one tidbit. You know, don't give 20 things to like, oh my God, how bad was I? You know, so it's like, okay, you know, one little tidbit to maybe improve as you go along. That would be something learning.
So continuing on, what are the most rewarding moments that you have? And I'm going to give you an example to kind of spur the discussion. One of my most rewarding moments was helping a student who was an amputee that had a false leg get through the entire course without anybody knowing they had an artificial leg, and seeing his face afterwards because he thought he would never ride a motorcycle again. So to me, that was a very rewarding moment. What are some of your most rewarding moments as new coaches?
Wow. So many of them, right? And this is why I really like the job. So a couple of them, there was a father and son. The son, both immigrants, new to the country. The son spoke pretty good English, and he got through the BRC. He came back and brought his father a couple weeks later, and father didn't speak. He spoke very little English, but I worked with the son and say, okay, I'm going to read the exercises, and then, you know, I want you to interpret. So I let him sort of stand next to me or stand off to the side while reading it. And his father, who when he came, you know, was worried that he wasn't going to be able to ride a motorcycle, and that was a huge passion for him. I mean, the gentleman was at tears at the end of the exercise. So it was really powerful for this gentleman, you know, older gentleman. And for him to be able to continue riding, which was his passion, get his motorcycle license. That was one. Veterans who had some physical disabilities, not an amputee, but other aspects, you know, some different limitations, go out and just perform so well on the class and get their license. And this is, you know, it's funny because I've told this story, right? You know, a lot of us, you know, have our day jobs. You know, I work in consulting services, right? And nobody wants to hear me talk about what's broken with their computers. Nobody wants to know, get my bills or any of that stuff, right? So they're all like, but I come to this job, everybody's happy to see me. It's a great weekend. They're like, what a great, I'm like, wow, you actually appreciate what I'm doing. Yay. So I would say, boy, every class is, right. You're going to have some students that are disappointed. You work with them and show them that, this isn't the end of the road for them. We can continue on different lessons and different experiences, but just the amount of good feelings that come out at the end of the weekend is a great. And one of the aspects that I'm bringing into my talk, I want to bring into next year, is I'm going to ask the students during the introduction, during the beginning, and say, look, there's going to be a point in your weekend where you're going to just really have, be in the zone, have a Zen moment of whether it's accomplishing a particular turn, whether it's accomplishing a maneuver that they wasn't going to do. And I'm going to say, look, just be in that moment for a minute. Because I am at the end of a class when you've got 8 or 9 or 11 people all high-fiving or, elbow bumping now. That's a zone for me. That's a Zen moment. So long story short, Dawn, is like every class to me is like really exciting.
So I kind of mirror a little bit what Jeff was saying. I think I know about at least 3 big ones that remind me of the last 2 years. The first one is, my first year had a gentleman, airline pilot instructor. So you're like, okay, this guy knows things, right? Completely tanked, just all up in his head. I learned a lesson because after that class is whenever I started giving the spiel, hey, I need to know if there's something personal kind of going on that's going to keep your mind off of your bikes, pull me aside. That's what I do. I'm a therapist, right? I need to know. I can kind of see something's going on. And this gentleman was shared with us after he completely tanked the eval, that he was going through a divorce. And, I was able to kind of chit chat with him about a little bit about that. And then that taught me as a coach, hey, let them know that, hey, if there's something going on that's going to keep your brain from being on my range and it's just going to be me, you, and the motorcycle, I need to know something. I don't need to know the details, but I need to know if there's something that's distracting you. And then I want to say it was about 9 months later, I walked in, I was at another dealership and I looked at a name and I was like, gosh, this name looks super familiar. And it was this guy walked into my class and he said, when I saw that you were my rider coach this weekend, I was so excited that I was going to get to come and take this from you. I am in such a better place in my head. I bought a bike a couple of months afterwards. I practiced. Completely perfect student. I mean, ace the eval, lead student, beautiful moment as a rider coach. And then I have had 2 situations where ladies on exercise 2, they were the ones you were going, oh God, we're about to have that conversation. I gave them a little bit more grace than probably some coaches should have, and they both made perfect scores on evals. They had that Zen moment, and at about midway of exercise 4, and next thing you know, they're my lead riders again. I mean, there's these, it was an amazing moment. So when you see that as a rider coach, as a new rider coach, you go, oh, that's why we do this kind of thing. So yes, so I agree with that about the Zen moments and finding those spaces. And today I saw that with my own kid, and I was like, I saw where she was like, wait a minute, my mom's trying to, my mom's being a great coach, but she's not being a mom, but hey, now I'm a motorcyclist, yay, and so I love it when they turn into riders and not students.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some chat in the conversation and about cone markings and different kind of, and there's just some chat in the chat about colors and preferences and things like that. As a trainer, when I'm doing a prep, I like to take a minute and just give a little bit of a range orientation instead of making coaches struggle with, oh, where do the cones go? Let's get over that. Here's some landmarks. The corners are 20 feet. You can count from the corners. There's a lot of, on a full-size range, there's a lot of action on the 60-foot line. going across the swerves and gates. It makes a kind of a clear marking across the range. So, sometimes having some of those landmarks in mind can make it easier to find your way around. And I guess everybody has preferences about cone colors, and I put green ones there, or I put orange ones there, and I try to not. I have my own preferences, of course, but I try not to get hung up about them. Whatever the other coach puts down, I'll roll with, and we'll make it work. In the successes, some of you mentioned, that's some single tips. I think it's important to give the new coaches some attaboys, when they're doing a great job. I know when I was a new coach, it was one of my very first classes, and, the other coach said at the end, I would teach with you any day. And I felt like $1 million, I thought, wow, that is such a thing, so let's remember to give some compliments where compliments are due. And to make it easy for new coaches, I try to take some of the stress off by letting them choose. Hey, if there's any exercise that you in particular want to ride the demo for, or you in particular don't want to ride the demo for, let me know. I'll do whatever you want to do, and that way, if they're still polishing up, a particular demo, I'm happy to ride that one for them. Of course, in the end, they're going to have to ride them all, but we can work up to that and put in some extra practice. And for me, another one of the successes is when the new coaches, when they're making decisions on their own. They're coming up to me and saying, hey, you know what, I really think so-and-so, it's time to cancel that person out. Or I notice that so-and-so is doing such and such. And what do you think about trying this to help them out? Or, the weather's looking like crap. I think we've reached a point where we need to call it. And to me, those are little successes because they're kind of going beyond the stand here, say this, mark time kind of stuff, and actually coaching and making decisions. And I think that's awesome.
Yep.
So as the time slips by, we're down to about the last 10 or 15 minutes of Tribe Talk for the evening. So randomly from the slide for the new coaches that are being involved tonight, pick one of these questions and just tell us what fits you the best and why, and give us how it makes you feel about it.
I'll jump in with that last question on their advice to new aspiring coaches. That's work with a lot of different coaches early on so you can gain some wisdom and experience of a lot of those tips and techniques that will make things a lot easier on you on the range and will help you see a lot of those things, especially when it comes to counseling out individuals and things like that. That was really what inspired my confidence. I got 2 mentors that I work with directly who have been, kind of the guys that I want to coach with when I do want to coach, even though I like to share the wealth, so to speak, with others. But it's made everything fun and helps keep a positive attitude while I'm out there on the range.
So I'll answer the first one real quick. What increased my confidence as a coach? Doing it more and more and more. Coach as much as you can. Be on the range as much as you can. Even if you're not getting paid,
right?
You go and you drop cones. You go and you hang out and you learn. So you do it as much as you possibly can. It is. I'm very much like, I think it was. I don't see her picture here now. Someone said that they did like 6 classes their first year and they did like 20 this year. Literally, I've done so many this year and I'm so glad I did. I mean, even with 2 months off, I was pumping them out and that's made me the best. Yeah, like I love that. It's made me so much better. Who's inspired me to be better and why? I'm gonna get cheesy, guys. You guys have. Like, I think that's one of the best things that 2020 has brought about is this Tribe Talk. I would have never had the opportunity to meet you guys and learn from y'all so much in the last, however long we've been doing this, since March, I think we started. You guys have inspired me this year. My first year, I had a couple of coaches that are just my mentors. I've learned what to do, what not to do, all those fun things. kind of answer broadly that question in the chat. Many coaches I've learned what not to do from. But you guys here in Tribe Talks have really inspired me to keep going and keep growing and be a better coach and keep digging.
I just want to on that last bullet. As a new coach, what advice would you give to other new coach? I'm going to say, well, first of all, yes, coach with the many coaches and find some good mentors. But I got to say, fall back on the plan, fall back on the guide, fall back on reading the book. You can, like, if you think you're not understanding something, the answer is inside your rider's guide, your range guide, and just. As I was told, RTFM, just read the freaking cards, and go with that, because that was always the fallback, and it just works. It just works. Josh, I think that was one of your wisdoms for me. Just RTFM, RTFC.
Yeah, I think it was something like that. It was some acronym.
Right.
Look,
Lena?
before I realized what F actually meant. So Jeff, hey, look, when they would say that, I promise you, I didn't realize the F actually stood for the word full.
Right. Right. Okay. Right.
So that was my lesson as a new rider coach is, oh, that's what that F really stands for. So, okay.
Yeah.
Lesson. I was like, oh, that sounded nice. Oh, that's a better word.
That's a little easier. All right.
All right, are we as an organization going to have a book on acronyms now? We don't need it. I'm a retired federal employee. We had an encyclopedia on acronyms.
Well, this one was a bit of a non-official acronym.
We have a lot of official acronyms, though. I mean, we could have a whole conversation and nobody would know one thing we're talking about. I mean, think of how many we have. C, ochre. I mean, we get it all.
So, there's that whole glossary in the Rider Coach Guide with the acronyms. And I had a new coach say to me once, what is the deal with you people and the acronyms?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Lena, would you like to share one?
Sure. Oh, it's repeating back to me. So for me, confidence as a coach, I notice it every time I coach actually, but I learned to kind of manage it is there's always at least one or two students who walk up to class, usually a middle-aged man who sees me and says, this is my teacher. This lady is going to teach me how to ride a bike. And I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but I can always just feel the vibe. And so for me, chatting about this with people and just trusting what I know and my passion for this and how much I love doing this. At first, I really would get in my head and I would struggle and it would make me kind of trip up a little bit. But I feel super confident now with what I know, and every single time I teach, I learn new skills and new tricks. So just being confident, being a badass woman in this industry, I guess.
As far as being a female in the industry, I think if we look for people to treat us differently because we're female, then we'll see that. If we just kind of charge in and assume that they're going to treat us with respect regardless, then you tend to see less biased because you're female. So don't let it bother you. And the same with being a first-year coach. Well, first of all, they don't know you're a first-year coach or a second-year coach. They just know that you're the best coach they've ever had. And they're not going to know when you make mistakes. They're not going to see them. And you just charge on and brush it off and everything works out really well.
I'll second that with for Rita. Lena, I went in, like I said, I am like that. No one knows how, I never share how long I've been riding with someone until even weeks later if they ask for it. Anyways, but you know, being a female, not giving them the opportunity. I think it might have been Jeff the other day, or is it Jeff or Jason? I can't remember. Somebody asked me that question about that. And I was like, I don't give them the opportunity because from the get-go, I mean, as soon as they walk in the door, to kind of answer the other question, how do you make it fun? How am I creating a fun atmosphere as a rider coach? I mean, from the moment they walk in the door, I'm like, y'all, I cannot wait to go on this adventure with you, right? I start it that way. And that just shows that this is not going to be me trying to teach you anything. I'm going to, man, we're about to take this adventure together. And I am so looking forward to seeing what you know, all this fun stuff. And that really kind of sets the tone. And I've definitely figured out getting that high energy at the beginning, just no matter how crappy of a day I've had, coming into that class with high super energy at the beginning sets the whole tone. And so I've never really had to deal with that. I know, and I've seen the guys that some of the guys take my class are husbands that I've seen around, you know, riding with other people and stuff, and that I know from the community. Never really had to deal with that because I don't give them the opportunity. Rita said, just go straight in, be confident. No one knows if you went the wrong way, and they don't know. They don't see your cards, right? You're just gonna go, you know what? I feel like I want to ride that one more time, just to make sure you got it right, and ride it again. So have confidence, and I mean that's just really how you do it.
So one more trip around the new coaches, if you would please. What advice would you give to seasoned coaches or trainers that would help other first or second year coaches like you?
I think to me it's again, it is just, yeah, I would have to say it is just feeding. And all my coaches have always been very positive, always getting, you know, positive feedback. You're doing great demo, great job reading the cards, or a great job, you know, sort of conducting the exercise. Always have a lot of positive affirmations. It is just, you know, just little bits of pieces. Don't throw too much at us as we're evolving and growing and becoming better coaches. You know, 5-second friend, right? Maybe just give that one thing at the ways we can improve our demo or way we ran a particular exercise. I think that's it. That's been my experiences.
Yeah, and please remember that we did go through an RCP. We are not range aids anymore. You know, please remember that we did suffer through 9 hard, grueling days of dealing with rider coach trainers that drilled things in our brain. So we put our time into, but share your experiences in a kind, gentle way. You know, I would say that, don't be an ass, you know, because literally the one coach that I had a problem with was, I'm better than you. Thank God we don't have what they call Rider Coach 1 and 2. You know, the only difference between Rider Coach 1 and 2 is you get $20 extra to buy the water. You know, so there's not really a hierarchy. I'm happy about that in our area. But yes, don't be an ass. Remember that we've been through RCP. And remember being a new rider coach. Pull from your experience. So yeah, that's what I would say to make it more comfortable and kind of more like welcoming. And so yeah.
So let me, Don, if you don't mind, I have one question out there. What advice could you give us new folks as we're like, I'm going into year 2? Anyone want to share some of that wisdom with me?
I know my advice, and you're doing it, Jeff, is you go back to your rider coach guide, you self-assess, and you're always inspiring to be better. You're here. I wish everybody would do that. I wish we'd have more people really, live it, breathe it, and want to be better and want to be part of it. That's my goal that I want to see everybody do.
Thank you. I usually go back to the guide so I can, when a senior coach told me I did something wrong, I like to look it up and show, no, I didn't.
One of the things I try to do with the new coaches, especially with their first or second year, I talk to them about anything they can improve on, but I also will ask them, is there anything you think I could do differently that would help a new coach or a seasoned coach? Because I'm like everybody else, none of us are perfect. We sometimes make mistakes, even though some of us that have been around a long time.
Yeah, I think I would add just what everybody's saying, right? I mean, I think it's, you really want to strive if you're interested in doing this and it's a passion to get, to level 2 or beyond in your coaching style. And I think, a couple of you guys have brought up a lot of things that you can do by yourself, right? Getting inside the Rider Coach Guide, getting behind the theory of the exercises, and really making sure you're focusing on the objective. I think for me, what helps me help other rider coaches is when they tell me what they need, right? We say that to the students all the time, right? But what do you need, from someone who may have taught longer, where you're seeking that advice or the basis behind something? How can someone help you? And that's the approach that I've always taken. And I've been fortunate enough to have some really great mentors in the 6.5 years I've been doing this. So that would be my suggestion, I think, echoing what everybody else has kind of touched on here.
All right, I hate to be the party pooper, but we're going to go a little bit over tonight. I know it breaks some of your hearts, but it is getting kind of late. So we're going to move on quickly to the 3-minute thesis. And I know most of you have been around, and there have been discussions over the last month, last 3 weeks or so, when I wasn't around, about what the 3-minute thesis challenge happens to be. So I thought Rita did a really great discussion on what it is, and I'm going to quickly give you probably, was it five bullets here of what I'm thinking about with the 3-minute thesis. The biggest deal I can see with the 3-minute thesis is it's an opportunity for, number one, us to communicate to each other and help out other rider coaches. And eventually, maybe we can do some of these for students. But I really wanted to focus on tips that you could give to other rider coaches that would maybe hint at ways to do things better. And this, thanks, Rita, I appreciate it. This goes back to what I typed in a few minutes ago with Lynn talking about how to kind of judge distance on a range. I think that will be a great 3-minute thesis. And the way you do it is write a short script. Figure out the topic that you want to do, write a short script, and then practice your short script and see if you can get that information into a 3-minute video. If you want to kind of look at it the old way we used to do classroom stuff, where you kind of need a hook to get somebody's attention, it's good that you post a premise, discuss why it's a problem, and then give them the resolution of how to fix it. And if you have to use some kind of manipulative to show them, I could think about maybe doing the clutch, eking out the clutch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 5, 3, 2, 1 would be a great demonstration to do in a 3-minute thesis to show other coaches how you do it. And then eventually just finish strong with, hey, you should try this out and let me know if it helps you. So instead of boring you with all this stuff, what I decided to do was go ahead and share my quick 3-minute thesis with you and see kind of what I'm getting at, and then ask questions after that. So without further ado, my 3-minute thesis. Hello everyone, this is Don Green from RiderChoices. Today we're beginning a new series of videos called the 3-minute thesis, an opportunity for coaches to share coaching and writing tips with others in a short 3-minute video. If you feel you have something to add to the tribe, please submit your video and we will consider posting it for someone to see and share. Today I'm going to start by sharing challenge and support. Challenge and support is a theory that says for optimal student development, the challenges experienced by the student must be met with sufficient instructional support to tolerate the stress, or it could limit the growth of the student. As facilitators and coaches, we try to make easy, but as noted in the following Tribe Talk experts, challenging a student is helpful when you provide the right support.
Like Josh was saying, I'll do something very similar, especially with the young. It tends to be younger guys who have been riding dirt bikes forever. I'll say, you know, I know you can operate the motorcycle. You know you can operate the motorcycle. See if you can ride that demo better than I rode it. See how smooth you can be, see how good an example to the rest of the class you be, and put that challenge on them, and they will often strive to ride the perfect demo, quote unquote.
No, I kind of what Matt and Josh mentioned about challenging them, you know, like when they like to on the offset weaves, you know, those dirt bike riders, they'll zip through that real quick. I say, all right, see if you can do it really, really slow, you know, and you see them struggle at first till they get a feel for it, but they definitely are learning, you know.
Thanks for watching the first 3-minute thesis. Remember, provide your 3-minute thesis and join us on Tribe Talk every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and occasionally on Sundays from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great week. So that was just a quick demonstration of what you can do with a couple minutes of information and sharing it with other people. So what are your thoughts? What are your questions about doing this yourself?
I think it's great, Don. I'm gonna definitely I'll work on something.
Yeah, I agree with Josh on that one, Don. All I got to do is figure out a subject matter to cover. I have an idea, but I'm not going to spill the beans on it now in case somebody else tries to take it ahead of time. Maybe Josh or Ron out of New York or Massachusetts. I don't know. But seriously, gang, yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile.
Well,
I think this would be really awesome for new rider coaches to have this library of 3-minute bits of information. I think it would have helped me a lot last year.
So the question is, when are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? Should we set a timeline on it? Because like I'm formulating in my head what my next one is going to be. And as I was kind of looking through stuff today, I kind of went back to some of the old, I'm trying to think of what they were, the safety cyclists, they're on Retzorg in the library.
Yeah, the safe cycling like newsletter type. Yeah.
They are just full of nifty little ideas that we could share with each other. And I wanted to kind of throw that out there to you all because I think it would be a great place to come up with a 3-minute thesis topic.
Mike Con raises an interesting question about video editing software. If we want to do this, I will recommend that there's some cheapo Magnifico software called Wondershare Filmora, which is very good. It allows for a lot of easy crossfade. It's all very linear. It's easy to do. So check that out.
If you have Microsoft Windows 10, under Photos, it has a video editor. And I usually just take either using the camera on the camera from the PC and then edit it using Photos, or I will download from my iPhone a video and then just chop it up with the video editor under Photo in Microsoft Windows 10. So I didn't have to buy anything special to do this stuff.
Also, Mike, if you have PowerPoint, if you have PowerPoint, you can record a PowerPoint if you want to do it that way. Like if you want to do your quick 3-minute, if you just have slides and can you put video into that, you can record a PowerPoint. And I seriously just learned that. Sadly, I've been married to a computer guy for 20 years, but I just learned that you can record a PowerPoint in there. There's a spot up at the top. You hit record your pause, whatever you got to do, make your PowerPoint, record your audio, and then you can do it that way too. Or through Zoom. Since you have a Zoom account, you can go on and record yourself on Zoom. You don't need anybody else in there, and it will save into your Zoom account. So you can do that also.
Okay, so if you need any help with this stuff, feel free to reach out. There's plenty of people in here that will help you. And I think working together on these things will also help have another set of eyes so you don't feel uncomfortable about possibly screwing it up or looking quite like the idiot I did when I did it. So don't worry about reaching out to other people. So to wrap it up tonight, it's already 15 after. It's time for Tribe Talk poll questions for November 29th, 2020. Polling has started. Please take your time and read and answer the questions accordingly. For those of you who can't read this because you may be on a telephone or something, question number 1, simulated practice may best be described as A, an educational method used to stimulate thought about applying a muscle movement to a riding skill, or B, an educational technique used to ensure riders have the basic motor skills to complete a riding activity, or C, a motor skill that when used will provide the procedural skills, technical knowledge, and muscle memory sequences to effectively complete a riding exercise. D, an educational technique used to create muscle memory so gross motor skill principles will not be violated. Or E, a motor skill technique designed to enhance the riding experience of already skilled riders to take their learning to a deeper level. Question number 2. The coach positions on the range cards are A, required positions to stand when evaluating and coaching range exercises. B, were determined by curriculum developers to ensure ease of RiderCoach evaluation during training to assist with quality assurance measures. C, are where riders in a course are to stand for riding range exercise instructions and riding demonstrations, and when not riding split exercises. D, are where the rider coach spends the majority of their time during an exercise when the course was being field tested. E, are constantly changed whenever range cars are revised to ensure rider coaches pay close attention to changes made in the curriculum. We're about 30. We're at 35%, 48%, jumping quickly. %, rocking it out, 19 of 25 tonight. %76. We're coming up on 3 minutes. Give you about another 15 or 20 seconds here. Understanding that not everybody can vote. All right, gonna close voting down, and results are shared. So the answer to simulated practice may be best described as is A, an educational method used to stimulate thought about applying a muscle movement to a riding skill. 43% answered with that answer. Second runner-up was C, and of course that was wrong. Sorry. For the second question, the coach positions on the range cards, the answer is D, are where the rider coaches spent the majority of their time during an exercise when the course was being field tested. 38% answered that. The second runner up there were determined by curriculum developers to ensure ease of rider coach evaluation during training. Not concerned about that. So let me get a picture of this. Hey, good night. Good night.
Night, Don. Night, everybody.
Oh, we're not leaving yet. Give me a second. I'm sorry.
I thought he's throwing this out.
I thought you said good night. I know you're like good night.
I thought I was about to get
I was
kicked out.
saying,
Okay, I
good
guess
night.
that's it.
All right. So to finish up tonight, I'm going to share the screen again real quick, if you don't mind. Maybe not. Bam. Bam. Bam.
Technical.
I want a quick cover on how to build the tribe. If you haven't been here before, please invite others to participate. Contact me if you want a topic to be addressed on Tribe Talk. Feel free to email me and we'll get together and find somebody who wants to get that information out, or we'll find somebody that is a subject matter expert and let them lead the discussion. Be a mentor to others, volunteer and host. It's very fun, it's helpful, and it gives you an opportunity to present to other rider coaches your ideas. We want to develop this a little bit further. So any ideas that you want to share with us during either Tribe Talk or Tribe Talk happy hours will definitely be noted, so that we can invite more people in and have a bigger emphasis on sharing information. Sorry, I'm going kind of quick here because I know we're over. This is a wrap up of tonight, first and second year coaching experiences, the 3-minute thesis, our Tribe Talk weekly poll. And I have put a question mark here because I know it falls in between Christmas and New Year's. So I need a little feedback from you all, probably this next Wednesday, on whether you think December 27th is a good date for the next Tribe Talk. And then, as always, Tribe Talk Happy Hour every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, where we just randomly talk about stuff and it's not so scripted or rushed like we have been here tonight. Any question from anybody tonight before we shut her down?
No.
Or comments?
Don, thanks a lot for doing this.
Always my pleasure. Always my pleasure.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Invite your friends. This is fun. I enjoyed our time together. Thank you for learning me something.
Absolutely. Everybody have a great night.